How's it going, everybody? I hope you're all having a wonderful day. In this week's video, I'm going to show you how I sharpen my chisels and plane irons using a method that is both efficient and doesn't require a whole lot of skills. If that sounds too good to be true, stick around. I think you'll enjoy this one. Let's get started. Now, I recognize that sharpening in woodworking is a very, very divisive topic because it seems like everyone's moms, dads, uncles, friends, buddies, they all have a perspective and opinion on what is the best sharpening method that they all swear by. And I get it, because chances are they're probably all right. Because as long as you can sharpen a piece of metal to do the job that you want it to do, congratulations. Your method is the best method because it works well for you. However, there is something to be said for efficiency in sharpening, and that's primarily what we're focusing on today. Between you and I absolutely hate sharpening. Sharpening is one of those things that I do to get to woodworking, and I like woodworking. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that I despise sharpening more so than I despise sanding, because at least when it comes to sanding, it's still woodworking. I mean, it's boring woodworking, but it's woodworking nonetheless. So anything that I can do to make that process, the sharpening process, more efficient is something that I certainly welcome with open arms. So in my case, establishing a bevel on a new tool or reestablishing a bevel on a heavily used tool or a misused tool or something that got damaged is something that takes hours and hours for most of us to be able to do on a conventional method. So what I've been doing is I've been using a slow speed bench grinder with a CBN wheel to establish and reestablish bevels, and then I take that iron to the conventional sharpening method. And this way, I'm able to sharpen tools and resharpen those tools for at least 20-25 times once the original bevel has been established, and I can do that sharpening process in like 30 seconds or less. Honestly, I would say, yeah, about 30 seconds or less. And it doesn't require a whole lot of skill to be able to do that. So, I'll talk more about the techniques, the skill, and all of that later on. But first, let me show you the setup that I've got, and then we'll kind of go forward into the sharpening process. So this is my setup. At the heart of it, I have the Rikon low-speed 8-inch bench grinder. To the left of it, I have the Savannah 180 grit CBN wheel. Alongside that, to the left, the little black section that you see is a spherical washer. It's like a self-aligning spherical washer. And what it does, by the way, this is extremely critical to this setup. What it does is it automatically centers this CBN wheel to the arbor of the bench grinder so that this is mounted perfectly and it runs very true. Below it, I have the one-way Wolverine jig. This is the tool rest, and then this can come apart, and there's the base in here. You can buy this as a kit. You can buy them separately. They also make a whole bunch of other attachments. And to the right of it, I have the original grinding wheel that came with it. It comes with two, of course, but I kept one just because anytime I'm working with softer metal and I just need to do some conventional bench grinding, this works really well for that purpose. And of course, you might be wondering, can I just use the wheel that comes with the grinder for this type of work? And certainly you can. The couple of things that you want to keep in mind is that this is a wearable surface, so it's going to change in diameter as you use more and more of it, so the angle isn't going to always be the same. But that also means that you have to true it up every so often before you use it, so that's something to keep in mind. This also is going to generate a lot more heat in the grinding process, so you have to keep your tools cooler. So the advantage to the CBN wheel is pretty much the opposite of all of that, right? So it's going to run true, it's going to stay the same dimension, and it doesn't generate any heat, and chances are it'll probably last a lifetime under normal use. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to use a Sharpie and darken the entire bevel of the plane iron. And the reason we do this is so that we can find the center of this entire bevel, because that's where we want the arc of our CBN wheel to touch. So with this darkened, I'm going to lay this down in here and then try to kind of move it around so that I can find where it catches and registers the plane. And it looks like, my tool rest is probably, you can kind of tell here, see? My tool rest is a little too steep, so I'm going to adjust the tool rest a little bit. So everything seems good. Gonna tighten that up. And I'm going to go ahead and push this in. and then just take a small amount of movement and then inspect. And this is probably not terrible. Ideally, we want to be closer to the middle than we do want to be on either one of the edges. And so that's the sweet spot, but it's kind of tricky to hit that perfect every time. And frankly, I'm okay with that. So let's go ahead and get this going. Okay, so with everything going, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the plane iron. Just going to make very slow side-to-side movements. All right, so it looks like we're kind of wearing a little unevenly, so I'm going to try to hit this a little bit more. And I think, that's close enough. I'm going to call it a day here. And for the chisel part, I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. The only difference is I'm going to actually use a square in here and a piece of wood as a guide. All right, I'm going to stop right there. Okay, so with all of the grinding done, I wanted to take a quick moment to demonstrate why this is going to make our sharpening process much, much easier. So this is our bench grinding wheel, right? This is in a circle, and this is the side view of our plane iron, right? What I mean by side view is this view right here, right? So effectively, what we did is we created an arc on our plane iron. So with the sharpening stone in the bottom here, what you get is a 2-point contact. The tip and the heel of the blade, because you've got a hollow grind. And as a result, you get a very nice positive registration of your chisel or your plane iron. And this provides a lot of benefits. First and foremost, you don't have to remove a ton of material to get this thing sharp, right? You don't have to remove the material in the middle, it's already been done for you. So the very tip and the very back is the only thing that you're removing, so it's going to make the sharpening process much faster. Secondly, because you get a really good positive registration, you're able to consistently hit the angle at the tip. And one of the hardest thing about sharpening is getting a good feel for the blade and hitting the angles consistently at the tip. The last thing is, because this is hollow grinded, it's going to remove all of the suction that you may experience at higher grits if this was a straight plane iron. And that's actually a really wonderful thing because, that suction creates a little bit of a chatter, and that chatter actually kind of ruins the very sharp, fine edge that you create sometimes. And so again, it takes away a little bit of that guesswork, and you're able to glide this nice and smoothly. You're able to hit the angle consistently. It takes very little time, and that is the magic of doing a hollow chisel grind to do all of the sharpening for your chisels and plane irons, and that's what makes this process so beautiful and fast. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start sharpening, but before that I wanted to mention what I have here. I've got a 1000 grit diamond stone, and I have two Sharpening glass ceramic stones, and this is the 4000 grit and this is an 8000 grit. And so I'm going to just squirt a little bit of water across these, and then I'm going to take my plane iron. Again, see? There's just like no question about it. You can just push this down in here and there's your angle. I mean, it's that simple, right? You don't have to guess it at all, and it just feels just right. So I'm not going to put a lot of pressure. I'm just going to do back and forth. This is probably a little atypical than what you would have. Most people tend to do like little swirls and stuff. With this method, I don't find the need to do that. And from here, you can tell I've already hit all the way from left to right on the blade at the front. I've already hit at the back, so I can go ahead and move forward to the next grit. All right, so I'm going to do this one. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the 4000 grit just because the jump from 1000 to 4000 is pretty big. And I personally find this to work just fine. But yeah, you just want to make sure you spend a little bit more time between those grits. I'm going to clean off any of the material, and then I'm going to go ahead and go to the 8000 grit. And you can probably see a little bit of the burr coming off the end there. And of course, that's what you want to see. Hopefully I'm not writing right on top of it. And then I'm just going to clean off the bottom. And I'm going to say this is probably done. Okay, so of course, this is the plane iron that we just sharpened. Let me go ahead and take a little shaving. And you see, it's very effortless, right? So if you can shave with it, It's sharp enough for woodworking. Okay, so I just went ahead and mounted that plane iron on this jack, and we're going to take a shaving. Okay, so the first shaving is not too bad. You can kind of see my fingers through them, so obviously it's a pretty thin shaving, probably under a thou. There's really no reason to do shaving this thin unless you're trying to show off, or we're back in 2020 where you need toilet paper. But you know, it is a testament to the sharpness of the tool, because this is hard maple, and if it can do that to hard maple and make nice clean slices like this, you know, chances are your plane iron is nice and sharp. And as far as the chisel goes, if you can pair end grain with it, it's probably sharp enough. The one thing to keep in mind is that you only really have to do the hollow grind once in a blue moon, because once you've done it once, you can continue to sharpen on your traditional stones. You probably don't have to go down to 1,000 grit. You can go to 2,000, 4,000, and then kind of move from there. And you can do that maybe 25, 30 times before you need to hollow grind it out once more. So what do you think? Is this something that you're learning about now, or is this something you've always known about? Is this something that you would potentially do for your shop? Leave a comment down below, let me know. Well, that's it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's video, and if you did, please be sure to click the like button below. Consider subscribing to my channel if you're not a subscriber already. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.